The war in Sector 9 had lasted for years. The stars themselves seemed tired of it. Wrecked ships floated like ghosts between broken moons. The Zelthari fleet moved through the silence, hunting what was left of the Varn Confederation's forces. Their admiral, Kraton, stood tall on the command deck, his silver skin shining under dim lights. Victory was near, and he knew it. Below him, dozens of alien officers worked at glowing stations. Their claws tapped against glass panels, their voices sharp and proud. They were ready to end this once and for all. The Varn were finished, their ships weak and slow. Soon, this part of the galaxy would belong to the Zelthari Empire. "Admiral, the last Varn convoy has been located," said one officer. "Coordinates locked. They are trying to escape through the asteroid belt." Kraton's eyes glowed faintly yellow. "Cowards. Prepare all cannons. No survivors. End their suffering. Yes, Admiral." Engines roared to life. Massive warships turned toward their prey. Plasma cannons charged, painting the bridge in blue light. The crew watched the screen as the enemy came into view. Small ships, barely armed, running for their lives. It should have been simple, quick, clean. Then, one of the sensor officers froze. His fingers hovered above the control panel.
"Admiral!"
"New contact detected," Kraton frowned.
"Where?"
"Far edge of the sector, near the dead star. The signature is—" The officer stopped, eyes wide. "Massive." "Too massive." Kraton leaned forward. "Massive? A station?" "No, sir, a ship." "One vessel only," the bridge filled with quiet tension. The crew checked their instruments again. The readings made no sense. The contact wasn't moving like a fleet. It wasn't using normal FTL drive patterns. And its power output. It was like staring into a star. "Impossible," Kraton said. "No ship can carry that much energy. Must be a sensor ghost." "Negative, Admiral," the officer whispered. "It's real." Before the Admiral could reply, the lights on the bridge flickered. Static rolled across every screen. One by one, ships across the fleet began reporting interference. Communications broke down. Radar displays filled with white noise. Then a voice came over every channel at once, calm, cold, and unmistakably human. "Warning, human warship entering war zone. Maintain distance. Non-compliance will be met with force." The words echoed through every ship in the fleet. For a moment, even the stars seemed silent. "Humans?" Kraton said, half laughing. "They dare interfere in Zelthari affairs? A single ship? Let them come." His officers hesitated.
"Admiral!"
That warning came from an automated beacon. "It's broadcasting from the unknown contact." The Admiral turned toward the main screen. Space shimmered and a point of light began to grow. It expanded, brighter and brighter, until the entire bridge was filled with white glare. Then the light vanished, and something enormous hung in the void. The HSS Resolute. It was shaped like a spearhead, dark and old. Its hull was scarred and layered with heavy armor. The surface glowed faintly with red lines like veins carrying molten fire. It made no sound, but its presence filled every sensor, every radar, every nervous thought. Size. 2 kilometers long, an officer whispered. Mass, unregistered. Design, unknown. Scan it, Kraton ordered. They tried. Their scanners froze. Instruments failed. Readings looped. The systems could not process what they were seeing. "It's jamming us," said another officer. "Our systems are locking up." Kraton bared his teeth. "No one jams my fleet. Fire a warning shot." The nearest cruiser obeyed. It fired a single burst of blue plasma toward the human warship. The beam flew straight and true until it reached the Resolute. Then it disappeared. Just gone. No explosion. No impact, like it had been swallowed by space itself. What happened to the shot?" Someone stammered. "Unknown, Admiral. We lost tracking." Kraton slammed a clawed hand on the railing. "Then fire again! All forward guns!" Before the order could be completed, the sensors screamed again. The plasma cruiser that had fired the first shot vanished from the tactical display. "Sir, the Valkor, it's gone." "Destroyed?" "No, Admiral." "Just gone!" "No debris, no radiation. It's like it never existed." Silence filled the bridge. Officers looked at one another, pale and trembling. On the main screen, the human warship remained still. Its guns were not even raised. Yet the feeling of danger grew stronger, heavier, like invisible pressure on the chest. It wasn't attacking. It didn't need to. The voice returned. Same tone, same calm warning. "This is the HSS Resolute of the Terran Defense Command. You are entering a restricted humanitarian zone. Leave now," the Admiral sneered. "They think they can order us?" "They're bluffing!" "Sir," said one officer softly, "the human ship. Its energy levels are still rising." Cretan stared at the screen. The human ship's red lines began to pulse, one after another, like a heartbeat. It was charging something. "Raise shields," the Admiral barked. "All ships, prepare for battle." Every Zelthari vessel came alive with blue light. The fleet surrounded the Resolute, their formation closing in from all sides. For a moment, it looked like they had the advantage, dozens of ships against one. But then, the human ship moved. Not fast. Just a slow turn like a predator looking at its prey. And as it turned, every power reading spiked off the scale. The sensors couldn't even measure it anymore. The entire fleet began to shake under the gravitational pull. "Admiral," whispered one of his lieutenants. "What kind of ship is that?" Cretan's throat went dry. His voice barely came out. "By the stars! What have they sent?" The HSS Resolute drifted silently among the wreckage of stars. It did not move fast. It did not need to. The space around it seemed to bend ever so slightly, as if reality itself was unsure how to behave near such a thing. From the bridge of his command ship, Admiral Cretan watched the image on the main screen. The human warship floated in darkness, silent and calm, like a beast sleeping with one eye open. "Report," Cretan snapped. "Still no response to our hails," said his communications officer. "It's not transmitting any ID codes. Its systems are unreadable." "Unreadable?" "Explain." "Our scanners bounce off it, Admiral. They return nothing. It's like the ship isn't made of matter," Cretan hissed in frustration. "Increase scan power." The ship's systems whined under the load. For a moment, their sensors picked up something strange. A low hum, deep and heavy, that vibrated through every hull plate. "The crew could feel it in their bones. What is that?" one of the junior officers asked, clutching his ears. "Feedback," said another. "From the human ship, it's answering our scan." "Answering?" Cretan's voice rose. "How can a ship answer a scan?" Before anyone could reply, the screens across the bridge flickered again. For half a second, a ghostly image appeared. Lines of data, human text, strange diagrams flashing too fast to read. Then everything went black. When the systems rebooted, the human ship was closer. Much closer. No one had seen it move. "It's right in front of us," shouted the helm officer. "No FTL signature, no drive burn, nothing. It just appeared." Cretan's claws gripped the railing. "Target it! All batteries ready to fire!" But then a voice cut through the silence again, calm and level, like a teacher explaining a rule. "Zelthari fleet, you have attacked a humanitarian corridor. This is your only warning. Leave the sector." The crew froze. It wasn't a mechanical voice. It was human, a woman's voice, steady and calm. But there was no signal origin. It came from everywhere at once, even from inside their helmets and comm implants. "Trace the signal," Cretan ordered. "We can't," said the comm officer, panic in his tone. "It's transmitting through our systems." Cretan felt something deep inside him shift. It wasn't fear, yet, but it was close. He straightened his back. "We are the Zelthari Empire. We do not run from one ship. Fire at will!" The command echoed through the fleet. Dozens of ships locked onto the human vessel. A wall of blue plasma lit up the dark, roaring toward the Resolute like a storm of light. The shots hit nothing. Every bolt of energy curved, slowly, gracefully, around the human warship, as if guided by invisible hands. Some vanished. Others were redirected, spinning off into the void. None touched the ship. "What? What just happened?" whispered a gunner. "Our fire missed." "All of it." "It didn't miss," said the science officer, voice trembling. "It was redirected. Their defense system is bending space itself." Cretan's blood ran cold. "That's impossible." "Admiral," said the tactical officer, "the humans, they've had centuries to perfect their warships. Maybe this is a blinding flash cut him off. The Resolute fired one shot. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even bright. A thin beam of white light lanced across the void, almost too fast to see. It struck one of the Zelthari destroyers, and the entire ship vanished. No explosion, no debris, just a silent erasure, as if it had never existed. "Ship destroyed," shouted a voice. "No, erased. We can't find wreckage." Then another beam fired. Another ship vanished. Then another. Within seconds, 7 ships were gone. Every Zelthari on the bridge felt their stomachs twist. The air was heavy with quiet panic. The Admiral's claws dug into the metal rail. "Cease fire! All ships, cease fire!" The humans did not speak again. The Resolute hung still, silent and patient. The comm officer whispered, It's not even defending itself. It's watching us." Kraton's mind raced. No ship could be that powerful. Not even the oldest dreadnoughts of the Empire had that kind of control. And yet, here it was. Alone, unhurried, unstoppable. He turned toward his officers. "How far are reinforcements?" 4 hours, Admiral. Reinforcements. 4 hours, Admiral. He knew they would never make it in time. "What are we facing?" He muttered to himself. "A weapon? A ghost?" The science officer shook his head slowly. "Not a ghost, sir." "A warning!" Kraton's eyes narrowed. "Explain. The humans don't come to win wars. They come to end them." A chill spread through the bridge. The hum of engines, the flicker of consoles, even the faint beeping of scanners, all seemed distant now, like sounds underwater. The fear was no longer hidden. It was real, alive in every mind. Kraton looked out at the massive human ship again. The scars on its hull told stories. Battles fought long before this war began. It was ancient but not weak. It was a survivor. He thought about the warning they had received. "Maintain distance. Non-compliance will be met with force." He had ignored it. Now he understood. The Resolute wasn't there to fight. It was there to remind the galaxy of something every species had tried to forget. What happens when humanity decides to act? "Admiral?" one of his bridge officers asked, voice breaking. "Orders?" Kraton said nothing. His gaze stayed fixed on the silent warship. He could feel it watching back. The void was silent after the attack. The HSS Resolute hung in the dark like a silent mountain, untouched and unmoved. Around it, pieces of burning Zelthari ships drifted slowly, glowing like dying embers in space. No one spoke on Admiral Kraton's bridge. The air was thick with fear. No one had ever seen a weapon like that. A single human ship, destroying entire warships with barely a flicker. Kraton stood motionless, staring at the tactical screen. His throat felt dry. He wanted to speak, to give orders, but what could he say? Every time the humans fired, something disappeared from existence. "Admiral," said the science officer quietly, "we are detecting a message." "A message?" Kraton turned sharply. "From where?" The officer's hands shook. "From the human warship. Put it on screen." The bridge lights dimmed. A faint static hum filled the air, followed by the image of a human. A woman, calm, focused, eyes cold like the space around her. She wore a dark gray uniform with a Terran insignia on the chest. "Zelthari Fleet," she said. "This is Captain Arya Selene of the Terran Defense Command. You have entered a humanitarian zone. Your ships have fired upon civilian vessels under Terran protection. You are in violation of Article 1 of the Galactic Peace Accord." Her voice was calm, but carried a weight that silenced every being who heard it. She didn't raise her tone. She didn't need to. "This is your first and final warning. Leave now! Power down your weapons. Prepare for withdrawal." Kraton's claws twitched. How dare she threaten the Zelthari Empire? The comm officer swallowed hard. "Sir, she destroyed 7 ships in less than a minute." "She caught us by surprise," Kraton snapped. "We'll see how she handles a real strike. All ships, prepare to—" Then, Captain Selene spoke again, her voice calm but sharper this time. "Admiral Kraton, you are making a mistake." Every Zelthari on the bridge froze. How does she know my name?" Kraton whispered. "I know your fleet's strength," Selene continued. "I know your flagship's shield output, your weapon range, your jump coordinates, and your homeworld's fleet registry. If you fire again, I will respond. I won't warn you twice." The signal cut. The screen went black. For several seconds, there was nothing but silence. Then Kraton shouted, "Fire everything! All ships! Bring her down!" The Zelthari fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma, rail slugs, and fusion torpedoes filled the space between stars. The flashes were so bright that nearby asteroids reflected the glow like mirrors. But the Resolute didn't even move. Every shot bent away, sliding off invisible barriers. Some torpedoes turned around mid-flight, detonating against the ships that fired them. Others froze mid-space, caught somehow, and crushed into dust. The Resolute's hull shimmered faintly, its red lines glowing brighter and brighter. Inside the human ship, Captain Selene stood at her command station. Her face was calm, but her eyes told another story, tired, sad, and filled with the weight of too many wars. "Status," she said. "Shields holding," replied her first officer. "Enemy fleet aggression continues," Selene nodded slowly. "Prepare countermeasures." The officer hesitated. "Ma'am, if we fire again—" "I know," Selene said quietly. "But they made their choice." Back on Kraton's bridge, the science officer's voice trembled. "Admiral, their ship is powering up again. Ready evasive maneuvers." Kraton shouted. It was too late. The human ship's hull panels opened. Not weapon ports, energy vents. A soft blue light spread through the cracks of its armor. The red lines turned white, then came a pulse, not a beam, not a missile. Just a pulse, a wave of invisible force that rolled outward like a ripple through water. Every Zelthari ship in its path went dark. Systems died instantly. Engines stopped. Lights went out. The entire fleet, once bright and proud, now floated powerless and silent in the void. Kraton's ship trembled. "Reboot systems!" he shouted. "Nothing's responding," the engineer yelled. "They've shut us down!" In the middle of the chaos, a calm voice echoed again through the static. "You attacked civilians under Terran protection. This is the cost of your arrogance." Kraton looked up. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," she said. "We came to save lives, not to take them." The human ship began to move, slowly, gracefully, between the disabled vessels. It didn't fire again. It didn't need to. Its engines glowed faintly, cutting through the darkness like a torch through fog. As it passed the Zelthari flagship, Kraton finally understood the truth. The humans were not here for war. They were here for justice, and justice, in their hands, was absolute. He stared at the massive vessel in silence, awe and dread twisting together inside him. "How did we ever believe they were weak?" he muttered. The comms crackled once more. The voice returned, final, cold, and absolute. "This is Captain Arya Selene of the HSS Resolute. The Terran fleet has arrived. You are ordered to surrender all hostilities. Leave now, or be erased." And just as she said it, thousands of tiny flashes appeared behind her ship. New contacts. Human reinforcements. The Terrans had arrived. The stars of Sector 9 flickered as if holding their breath. The HSS Resolute floated silent and still, its dark hull glowing faintly in the emptiness. Behind it, new ships arrived, sleek, angular, and painted in black and silver. The Terran defense fleet had come. To the crippled Zelthari fleet, it was like watching night itself take form. Dozens of human vessels appeared from warp space, each one sliding into position without sound, without heat, without signal. They didn't chatter over comms. They didn't boast. They simply appeared. Admiral Kraton watched from his powerless bridge. The humans moved with terrifying discipline. Every ship took a place in a perfect sphere formation around the Resolute. The Zelthari were surrounded before they even realized what had happened. "Admiral," whispered one of his officers, voice thin, "they've cut off every retreat vector." "They predicted our escape routes," Kraton didn't answer. His mind was spinning. He'd commanded fleets for 50 years, fought in 7 major wars, faced every species from pirates to empire coalitions. He thought he had seen everything war could offer. But this was something else. The comms crackled again. "Zelthari fleet," said the calm human voice. "You have violated Terran borders. You have attacked protected vessels. You have been warned." On the main screen, Captain Arya Selene appeared once more. Her face was expressionless, her tone steady, her uniform spotless. The faint blue glow of her ship's command center reflected in her eyes. You will power down your weapons and prepare for inspection. Any sign of aggression will be answered with lethal force. Do not test our patience. Her words carried a weight far heavier than any threat. It wasn't anger, it was certainty. Kraton straightened. His pride fought against his fear. Humans! He shouted. You think your machines make you gods? You think your silence can frighten the Zelthari? We are warriors. We will never bow to— A bright flash cut his words short. Every screen on his ship went black. For a heartbeat, all sound vanished. Then the lights flickered back on. The image on the main display was horrifying. Half of his fleet was gone. Simply gone. No fire, no explosion. Just empty space where hundreds of ships had been. The crew on the bridge gasped. One officer fell to his knees. Kraton couldn't speak. His claws trembled against the control rail. What did they do? The science officer looked pale. It wasn't a weapon, Admiral. It was code. They deleted us from their sensors. And then reality followed. Explain, Kraton barked. The human ships, they're using something beyond physics. Quantum phase displacement. They can move matter between dimensions. They don't destroy targets. They erase them from existence. The Admiral stared at the void. They're rewriting space itself. He turned back toward the image of Captain Selene. What are you? Her voice came calm and cold. We are human, and we warned you. The comms fell silent again. For a moment, Kraton thought it was over. Then a new alert blared through the dim bridge. Admiral! Multiple energy signatures! It's coming from the Resolute. It's charging something massive. The view screen brightened as the old warship's hull began to shift. Its plates expanded, separating to reveal a core of swirling blue energy. The very stars seemed to bend around it. Gravitational distortion detected, shouted the engineer. It's forming a singularity field. Kraton felt his stomach twist. A black hole weapon? That's forbidden, the science officer's voice cracked. Admiral, that's not a black hole. That's a grav lance. Everyone froze. The grav lance was a myth. An ancient weapon humans were rumored to have built during the Great Silence centuries ago. It was said to fold gravity itself into a narrow beam capable of crushing entire fleets. No species had ever confirmed it existed, until now. By the stars, whispered Kraton. They brought a planet killer. The human fleet pulled back, leaving the Resolute alone at the center. The energy around its hull intensified. Space shimmered, and then silence. Every sensor went dead. Every alarm froze. For one breathless moment, the universe seemed to stop. Then the beam fired. It wasn't light. It wasn't sound. It was absence. A thin, perfect line of nothing that stretched from the Resolute's core through the heart of the Zelthari. Formation. Every ship in its path folded. Inward like paper caught in a whirlpool. Kriya. Tan's flagship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Hull plating tore free. The bridge lights went red. Stabilize power. He yelled. Reverse thrusters! It's no use, cried his officer. Gravity field is pulling us in. The image of the Resolute grew larger and larger on the screen. The human warship didn't chase them. It simply waited, unmoved, surrounded by the storm it had created. The grav lance faded after only 3 seconds. The void was silent again. Half the Zelthari fleet was gone, torn apart, crushed, or erased. The survivors drifted helplessly, their engines dead, their pride shattered. The humans didn't pursue. They didn't gloat. They simply reformed their sphere, protecting the rescued civilian ships that had been caught in the middle of the war. On Kraton's bridge, the silence was unbearable. One of his lieutenants whispered, Admiral, what are your orders? Kraton's voice came out low and hollow. There are no more orders. He stared at the image of the human fleet, shining faintly in the distance. They fight like gods, but mourn like humans. Then the comms clicked again. Captain Selene's voice returned one last time. Admiral Kraton, this battle is over. Leave the sector and do not return. If you cross this border again, there will be no warning. The connection ended. Kraton closed his eyes. He had seen empires fall, planets burn, and stars die, but he had never seen mercy that felt so heavy. The turning point had come. The galaxy would never be the same again. Silence filled the void after the blast. No one spoke. No one dared breathe. The HSS Resolute hung in space, glowing softly in the darkness. The storm it unleashed had ended, but its shadow remained. Where once a mighty fleet had stood, there was now only dust. The Zelthari armada, once feared across 7 sectors, was broken. The stars themselves seemed dimmer, as though mourning what they had witnessed. Admiral Kraton stood on the bridge of his shattered flagship. The hull was cracked. Fires burned in the lower decks. Systems flickered in and out. He could barely hear his crew through the noise. "Report!" he shouted, his voice trembling. The comm officer turned toward him, eyes hollow. "We have 16 ships left, Admiral. Out of 300. Kraton's legs nearly gave out. 16? The officer nodded. Most of the survivors are damaged beyond repair. Engines offline. Life support failing. The field weapons. They tore everything apart. The Admiral turned toward the main viewport. Far ahead, the Resolute floated peacefully, its hull cooling after the grav lance fired. The human fleet was already tending to the survivors, not Zelthari soldiers, but the civilian vessels that had been caught in the crossfire. Kraton could see Terran rescue drones flying between wrecks, pulling out trapped Varn civilians, carrying them to safety. The same humans who had just unleashed godlike destruction were now performing acts of quiet mercy. He couldn't understand it. One moment, they were monsters, the next, saviors. "Admiral," said the tactical officer, "the human ship is transmitting again." "Put it through." The image of Captain Aria Solan appeared once more. Her face was calm, but this time her voice carried a strange sadness. "Zelthari Command, this conflict is over. We have neutralized your fleet to protect innocent lives. You are to withdraw from Sector 9 immediately. Do not return." Kraton's jaw clenched. He could feel his pride crumble inside him, but somewhere deeper, beneath the anger, beneath the pain, there was something else. Respect. He stepped closer to the comm screen. "Why spare us?" he demanded. "You could have destroyed us all. Why hold back now?" Selene's gaze didn't waver. "Because we're human," she said softly. "And that still means something." The channel closed. Kraton stood in silence. He thought of all the stories he had heard about humans, their greed, their wars, their unpredictability. His people had always mocked them as reckless creatures, emotional and fragile. But now he understood the truth. Humans didn't fight for pride or conquest. They fought for principle. They fought because they couldn't stand watching others suffer. And when they decided to act, nothing in the galaxy could stop them. A low rumble shook the bridge. "Admiral!" shouted the engineer. Gravitational field increasing. "The humans! They're activating the lance again!" Panic filled the room. "But why?" someone cried. "They said the battle was over." Then the screen shifted. The view zoomed toward the Resolute, where the grav lance core began to glow once more, but it wasn't aiming at them. It was pointing at the debris field left behind. Selene's voice came through the comms again, steady and sad. "To prevent contamination, no weapons of war will remain in this sector." The grav lance fired. The beam swept across the wreckage like a curtain of light. Every floating ship, every twisted piece of metal, every burning corpse, gone. The debris field vanished, leaving only empty, clean space. When it ended, there was nothing left to mark the battle. No trophies, no graves, only silence. Kraton watched in awe. "They erased the evidence," he whispered. "Even history itself." "Admiral," said his first officer quietly, Should we retreat?" He looked back at his trembling crew, officers who had fought beside him for years, soldiers who had seen victory after victory. Now they were beaten, humbled, and terrified. "Order all ships to fall back," he said at last. "Set course for home." As the remaining Zelthari ships limped away, the human fleet held position. None of their guns were raised. None followed. They simply watched in silence, and when the Zelthari were gone, the Resolute turned its attention to the wounded Varn transports. Inside one of the Terran medical frigates, human medics worked side by side with Varn survivors. Their armor was scarred and burned, but their movements were calm and efficient. They spoke softly, reassuring the frightened aliens in simple words they could understand. Captain Selene stood on her bridge watching the rescue efforts. Her first officer approached. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "Command is asking for confirmation. Should we report the engagement as complete?" Selene nodded slowly. "Yes, tag the sector as clear." The officer hesitated. "And the Zelthari, ma'am?" Selene looked out at the distant stars. "They'll remember." He didn't ask what she meant. Everyone knew. For the next few hours, the human ships worked in silence, saving who they could, recording what was left, then leaving no trace behind. When they finally jumped to FTL, the sector returned to stillness. But the story did not end there. The Zelthari survivors carried it home, the tale of the silent warship, the Resolute, and the human captain who ended a war with a single weapon and a single warning. That story spread across every starport, every bar, every military outpost in the galaxy, and from that day forward, whenever a Terran signal appeared on a battlefield, every commander remembered the message that still echoed in the void. Warning: a human warship has entered the war zone. 3 days after the Battle of Sector 9, the stars were still quiet. No transmissions, no signals, no patrols. The void seemed to remember what had happened there. Far away, deep in Terran space, Captain Arya Selene stood before a wide observation window aboard the HSS Resolute. Outside, Earth's sun glowed softly, reflected off the hull of dozens of returning ships. The rescue fleets had finished their work. The civilians were safe. The Zelthari were gone, and yet the captain did not feel victorious. She watched small shuttles move across the shipyards, carrying engineers, medics, and tired soldiers. Everywhere she looked, she saw relief, but also something darker. The crew spoke quietly, their faces pale. They had witnessed what the Grav Lance had done. They had seen an entire fleet disappear. Her first officer, Commander Reeves, approached slowly. "Command wants a full report within the hour, ma'am." "I know," she said softly. "But what can I possibly write? That we erased 300 ships? That we turned a war into silence?" Reeves didn't answer. He had no words for it either. Behind them, a hollow screen flickered to life, showing the Terran Council broadcast. Reporters were shouting questions to officials. Words scrolled across the bottom. "Human warship ends war in 1 engagement." Across the bottom. "Human warship ends war in 1 engagement."